race fans, it's Taylor, your host of Above the Yellow Line. Before we jump into the podcast today, a very exciting one, I want to mention that this is the introduction of a new segment I'm doing called Walk the Line, where I have a guest on the podcast and we have a general NASCAR discussion or debate about certain topics that are hot right now in NASCAR or ones that I just feel like we need to talk about. So today is the first one. I'm very excited with my guest. So without further ado, let's jump right into Walk the Line. Hello, race fans. My name is Taylor, and welcome to Above the Yellow Line, the podcast where we talk about all the updates, theories, news, recaps, and more of the NASCAR Cup Series. Today's a little different. You can see my face. It's pretty cool. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. We also have a special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself to the fans over here?
Hi, I'm Zachary Bell. I write for Racing Refresh. I am co-host of the Dipsticks Debates podcast, also presented by Racing Refresh. Other than that, I commission a racing league on NASCAR Heat called the NASCAR Reddick Cup Series. We race every Tuesday and Thursday. And other than that, I'm just a dipstick who loves talking about NASCAR.
Go check out their channel. Really, really good stuff over there. Love it. Love the debates. Today, it's kind of debating a little bit too. A first for me, not an updates, not mostly focused on stats in next races. We're focusing on the playoffs today. And I know it's a little early. It's pretty early, but we have some interesting points to talk about. So Zach and I are going to dive in right now, start talking about the top 16 in points, and then we're going to go down the line and talk about other drivers who might be in a little bit of trouble. So why don't we start with the drivers that are in? Let's clear the air. We have Michael McDowell, William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell in on points. Anything we want to mention there with them for the playoffs?
I kind of think that these are the teams that we thought would win early in the season, Hendrick and Gibbs. I just think that we were surprised it's Christopher Bell, William Byron, and Kyle Larson. If we had all thought that maybe, hey, Denny Hamlin wins and it's a Chase Elliott win or two Chase Elliott wins or something, I don't think any of us would be really as surprised. So that is my takeaway. Of course, McDowell winning the 500, it is a fluke sort of thing in a way of the fact that a team like that necessarily wins a race, but it's the 500, so anything happens. But I have pretty low expectations for his playoff chances when we get there.
Part of me feels like, he's not going to make it far. I'd like to be wrong, but I think, and something also I noticed with these drivers too, is besides Michael McDowell, they're young, they're newer, they're fresher faces, and you're seeing, like you mentioned, Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing. The veterans have not really put it together yet, which is something to also talk about while we go down the line of the next drivers. We know drivers that are probably in, like Keselowski's going to definitely make it to the round of 16, obviously, like no question, unless something crazy happens. We have top leaders on this list: Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott's probably going to make it, Joey Logano. Let's talk about drivers that might probably need a win, but are probably also still in. Anyone you want to mention right off the top of your head?
Kurt Busch. At the rate that we're having so many different winners, his consistency throughout the regular season, he's been a guy who wins one race a season for like the past 5 years. So I'm not too concerned about Kurt Busch missing it. But if we start getting a bunch more random winners, and the guys on the other big teams start winning races, the Ryan Blaney's of the world, the Alex Bowmans of the world, it'll make you eventually have to ask, can Kurt Busch point his way in, or will somebody else end up beating him out? I think he's in the prime position of all the guys who have a chance of pointing his way in. He's 10th in the standings. He's looked great every week this season except for last week at Las Vegas. But Kurt Busch is the first name I look at as somebody who probably needs a win to guarantee his spot, but it's still like a really likely candidate to make it.
I would also agree. He has shown tremendous strength this season so far. I would say anything you throw at him, he's able to take. Definitely one able to point his way in if necessary. Another driver I see on that list right now, I would say Kyle Busch. Clearly, we've seen him kind of falter the past year and a half. This season has been pretty tough, but he's going to have to work and bearing a win and getting some good points. We saw him do so well last week with he finished third, I think, at Las Vegas. Yeah, so if things keep going that direction, I think we see him in, no problem. I was a little concerned start of the season, but I think he's in.
Yeah, I don't know if Kyle Busch is like a true championship contender, and it's not because it's Kyle Busch, but I think with adding in a new crew chief in Ben Bayshore, and then adding in the fact that there's still no practice for these Cup Series guys, no qualifying, there's only a limited amount of chemistry you can get, even if you've worked with someone in a lower series like he did with Bayshore in the Xfinity Series. Of course, we saw Brad Keselowski make it last year with Jeremy Bullins, and that was their first season together in any sort of Cup Series capacity. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm, but with how Kyle Busch performed last season, combined with everything going on remaining this season, I don't think it's very likely he makes it that far in the playoffs.
I agree. I also think, too, I remember a comment, I think it was after last weekend's race. He mentioned something about his simulator time, how the cars that he's trying to drive in the simulator are off from what they are on the track. The whole team, I think he mentioned having that issue. They're just not putting it together, needing more time, I think, for that team. Like, I agree with you, not going to make it that far. Two other drivers we have to mention on this list, Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher. I don't think they're going to make it far. I don't know if they're going to make it in at all. I think if we're going to flip-flop some teammates here, Ryan Preece is going to probably drop out. Stenhouse is going to be in. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's likely that either of them necessarily get in. If anybody does, it'll be Stenhouse because I think he's more likely to win a race this season. He's done it before. We still have a trip to Talladega, and we still have a trip to Daytona down the line in the season. So those are the two races I'm looking at Stenhouse to win. Buescher could win those races too. I don't think JTG or Roush are really like that competitive. I think Chris Buescher is propped up by a good performance, for at Homestead mainly, that stands out to me, and Stenhouse is propped up by that good 500 run. So
yeah, I mean, I see Stenhouse potentially getting in. I can see that happening. Like you mentioned, we have the super speedway races still in. We also know they're kind of a crapshoot. We don't know who's going to win until the finish line is. So we just don't know. So they're ones I'm not quite sure of. We have to talk about for a second. Let's go up to this list, number 7, Kevin Harvick. Rough few weeks for the SHR camp. Kevin Harvick has, of course, run the best for that team in the top 10 until this weekend where he finished, what was that, like 20th?
20th on the dot.
Yeah, so, and he was the best out of his teammates. Of course, teammate Eric Almirola crashing out of that race pretty late. He got a tire went down, I believe, and then ran into the wall. Done for that team. He's one not, I think, like we mentioned, not super concerned about. We're pretty sure he's going to make it in, but he's got to work for it. And I think that whole team in general needs to start kind of clicking. Same with Kyle Busch's team. They got to start figuring something out fast because Penske, Hendrick, JGR figuring it out. Yeah,
well, I think my concern for Kevin Harvick is that unlike Gibbs, we talked about Kyle Busch and kind of referenced him in the same sort of breath. Is that Kevin Harvick doesn't necessarily have the veteran teammates to kind of bounce and soundboard ideas off of in the same way that Kyle Busch does. Kyle Busch has Martin Truex and Denny Hamlin alongside, and Kevin Harvick has Eric Almirola. Like, maybe, Eric Almirola is struggling this year. Eric Almirola is someone who has never really been a person who can win races at any moment. It's more of a fluke thing when he wins. So for Kevin Harvick, I almost feel like he's kind of, having to sift through all of this mess by himself in a way, and it is concerning. I definitely think he still probably snags a win somewhere in this season, and I think he's a relative contender to the championship. But if he does not perform well at Phoenix and Atlanta, 2 tracks we know he traditionally runs well at, I think it's time to kind of to raise a red flag here as to what's going on at the SHR camp.
And with Kevin Harvick, let's also briefly mention his teammates. Of course, we mentioned Eric Almirola. We mentioned blanking here.
Chase Briscoe and Cole Custer.
Thank you. We mentioned those 2 drivers now. Cole Custer was Rookie of the Year last year. He won at Kentucky. How are you feeling about his chances this year? I'm not feeling it. I don't know.
Well, he had a good run going at Homestead though towards the end, and then he had to pit late in the race for like a tire that was loose or bad. Something was happening. He had a tire issue at the end of Homestead. But I don't think that Cole Custer really impressed me last season. The win at Kentucky was cool, but I feel like that win at Kentucky was mainly a product of like the wackiness of that restart and the aero package that they run now. Yeah. So my concern is kind of where do we go from here with Cole Custer? Like, he's got to get consistent for me to even think he really has a chance, because I'm not convinced he can win a race right now because SHR hasn't shown race winning speed, and I'm not convinced he can point his way in because he hasn't been consistent enough.
Same with Chase Briscoe, obviously, rookie season in the Cup Series. We saw him win 9 races, equivalent to now teammate Kevin Harvick last year in the Xfinity Series. There's too much newness here. I don't feel like he's going to make it at all super far. He is in points right now. Scrolling down here, Chase Briscoe. He's 26th in points.
Yeah, it's never bad when you have to scroll down that far
Yeah,
to see
it's never good.
I'm a little bit higher on Chase Briscoe, I think, than you are. The Indy Road Course is somewhere that stands out because he's the guy that's had seat time there, more seat time than anybody in the Cup Series has had there. Of course, because they ran it last year in the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series didn't. So as long as Austin Cindric and AJ Allmendinger aren't in that race, I would still probably say he's a top 5 favorite to win it. But outside of that, it's been a little bit disappointing to see him run this way, but you have to keep reminding yourselves that without practice and without qualifying or anything, or any chance to fix these cars really before you get to the racetrack and start the race, it's hard, and it's hard on a rookie, especially because he doesn't know necessarily what he's looking for. He's never driven these cars before. I'll say the more impressive thing is that Anthony Alfredo is right behind him if we're talking about the two rookies, Not that Alfredo is necessarily a contender for anything, but if Chase Briscoe and SHR keeps these struggles going, maybe Anthony Alfredo finds a way to pass him up in the standings at some point this season.
And looking at Chase Briscoe's success last year and looking at what I know about Anthony Alfredo, it's impressive that he's keeping up. I mean, they're neck and neck. I think the same thing. If Chase Briscoe and that team can't seem to figure it out, Anthony Alfredo has a chance to kind of propel himself in the points. Definitely not a playoff contender, but someone who can surpass some of the SHR guys eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect Eric Almirola to run 28th in the standings all year while we jump on down to him.
No. Yeah, he's going to make some points up.
Probably gets to the top 20, but would you be surprised if he had a season kind of similar to the one that Jimmy Johnson had last year, where he finishes 17th in the standings, or Eric Jones when he was at JGR? I wouldn't be surprised by that sort of season happening for Eric Almirola. He's just so far behind the 8-ball. He's not a guy who can afford to be behind the 8-ball because he doesn't win races. He needs to be up there with Kurt Busch and Austin Dillon in the top 16, and he's not. He's 28th.
Yeah, at this point, he needs a win to point himself in.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. It's not looking good for him. I want to kind of pivot towards another driver we talked about, Cole Custer, Rookie of the Year. I want to mention a driver that, in my opinion, was Rookie of the Year last year, minus a win, Tyler Reddick, who did very well in points last year. He ran very well at Homestead, I believe. It was Homestead that he ran very well at. And if you get him on those 1.5 mile tracks, I think he can do very well. He's going to have to win, I think. He can work himself in I'm not positive, but I feel like he needs a win, but he's also able to work himself in.
He's on the cusp of needing a win. I would say that if you're outside the top 25 in points already, you probably need a win.
Yeah.
He's sitting at 23rd. He had that top 5. He finished second at Homestead. Sadly, there's not a chance for him to win Homestead because it's not a 2-race, date. But
I wish it was.
There are some races that stand out there, I do too. I wish Homestead was a championship race, but I don't make NASCAR's rules or schedules at this point. But
I wish we could, because the track is just so gorgeous. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
But he finished second to his teammate Austin Dillon at Texas last year in the first Texas race. Through a lot of strategy and stuff, and assuming that Texas itself does not change the way it races necessarily based on the strategy you would use, maybe he could win. Although maybe he could win that race, but the problem is, now that I'm thinking about it, is Texas no longer has that spring points paying race date. They just have
it's the All-Star race,
playoff race. They have the All-Star race and the playoff race, but maybe a chance to win at a track that we haven't seen yet. He looked good in the Busch Clash on the Daytona Road Course. He didn't look so good. He looked so good in the actual Daytona Road Course race.
No,
but he stood out to me in the Clash. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's one of those guys that just finds a way to wheel a car around a racetrack and out talents several guys and stuff to win a race.
I think for him to win a race too, it's got to be a combination of pit strategy. He's got to be right place, right time. I do think he has, very talented, can wheel his way up to the front, but I think it's going to take a lot of strategy and a lot of perfect timing, I think, as we've seen from him in the past, to be able to get up to the front of the field and kind of stay there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. He's good enough to keep track position. He's limited by the RCR equipment a little bit, They're not the top notch. They're not the top dog at Chevrolet, of course. We know that.
No.
We know it's Hendrick Motorsports. They're not even the top dog at Chevrolet. We know that's Chip Ganassi, probably.
Right. Yeah, Chip Ganassi Racing. Yeah, they're not the top dogs of Chevrolet. They're like the step under Hendrick. I also want to mention, speaking of Chip Ganassi, let's mention Ross Chastain just for a second. Ross Chastain, 22nd in points, new to the team, kind of rookie, I guess, in the sense that this is his first full-time Cup start, I guess. I don't know what to think about him right now. He's one I've been pretty clear on how I think about everyone else in this list of drivers. He's one I'm just not sure of.
I think the reason why you're not sure of him is because he's probably meeting the expectations you had for him. When you look at the drivers who's around him in the standings, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Newman right above him, and Reddick and Eric Jones right below him, I don't think that we're necessarily surprised by those guys running around Ross Chastain in the points. And you kind of mentioned it, that he's a quote unquote rookie. Like, to me, like, he is a rookie. You know, it's one thing to be a rookie for Rick Ware Racing or for Premium or Spire or whoever, and it's another thing to be a rookie for a competitive team like Chip Ganassi. So I would argue that 22nd in the standings is about where I expected him. I'd like to see him jump up to the top 20 by the end of the season, but I don't think his season is defined by making the playoffs or winning a race or anything like that. He's someone who I just want to see more consistency out of. You know, he's been a mid 10th to 20th guy most weeks. It feels like.
Yeah, and I know the shtick, I guess, for Ross Chastain, and he is a very aggressive driver. We saw this 2 weeks ago. I mean, he got in with Ryan Blaney. I think that was him at the road course. And then he got into it with Matt DiBenedetto last week or 2 weeks. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. I mean,
Homestead.
Homestead. He'll throw aggressive blocks. I mean, he'll do what he can to get any points on the track that he possibly can. So with the aggression, I can see him moving forward in the points, but I think you kind of summed it up there. It's as we expect him to do. Let's move on to the drivers, though, not doing as well as we hope or as expected. Those drivers, the main drivers that I'm talking about are Bubba Wallace, Matt DiBenedetto. I think we got to start with Bubba Wallace real quick and then go into my biggest disappointment of the season so far, Matt. Um, Bubba Wallace, new team owner, new equipment, everything. My biggest thing for his team, and I think the downfall, is the lack of practice time, the lack of time with the car. They got the car back in January, I believe, at the shop. Haven't had time to work on it, and week after week, it's been mechanical failure after mechanical failure. I I didn't really have high hopes for him this season, not because I don't think he's talented. It's just because there's so much new. You're not having that time, that quality time with your team to figure things out. Um, they had the expectation of, I think, a few wins, 2 wins, and I was listening to that. I'm like, I don't think that's possible. I think he can move up in the points. I don't know what you think. I think either he's going to move up a few or he's going to stay exactly where he's at.
I kind of think that this team will get better as the season trends along. Um, people have talked about comparing 2311 to like a Levine family racing, but to me, they're significantly better with how much Toyota seems to be backing them. They're much closer to like a Furniture Row operation. They're very close to the Gibbs camp and everything. And you're right. You hit it on the nail. You hit the nail on the head. A lot of these teams are going to struggle. A lot of these new teams and drivers in new places with new people around them are going to struggle without practice and qualifying. When you look at Bubba Wallace, the only thing he brought with him from RPM to 2311 was his spotter, Freddie Kraft, which is, of course, probably the most beneficial thing you could bring with you, besides maybe a crew chief. But he's got a lot of support around him. He's got a lot of backing. I think that Bubba can turn it up.
Yes.
Someone who like very easily. I mean, I ask myself, can he win a race? And I say yes. He could easily win at Talladega. He was close to winning there last season. He could win Daytona. Of course, he's been close to winning at Daytona.
He's been very close.
He's very good short track racer. That Martinsville race stands out when he ran the Black Lives Matter car. Of course, stands out as a memory. He won the dirt race at Eldora in the Truck Series, so I would say he's a sleeper contender for the dirt race at Bristol at least.
Absolutely.
So, I don't think Bubba makes the playoffs. I can see the path, though. It's a lot better than some of these other guys. I'll say that. But they got to get the equipment in line. They got to straighten up, who's doing what, and making sure O-rings are put on right and everything. Like they didn't have an O-ring on right this weekend. So you got to get those things in line before you can start talking about winning races necessarily.
I think his equipment has held back the talent that everyone, I think, is hoping to see from him. Trying for him, I guess this season is him proving a point to be like, hey, I have the equipment, I have the talent, I'm going to win races. I want him to prove that point. And I think when he gets the equipment in place, maybe. but it's a learning curve, learning season for sure. Any closing remarks on Bubba Wallace before we move on?
No, get better paint schemes. That's a closing remark. I mean,
The
pointing out
McDonald's one.
the McDonald's one is like a bit disappointing. I don't love the DoorDash car to be candid. The
Really?
delivery car is nice, but the DoorDash car is a
Yeah.
little wonky.
I would say I'm kind of I like the DoorDash car, the Columbia car. I'm kind of like I don't know. I was expecting better designs. Not gonna lie. I mean I don't know. I was expecting a little more pizzazz from the cars, but
I like the black and blue. It could be
yeah.
cooler. He ran that fish car or whatever last year, and that thing
Oh
was
yeah.
amazing. All of his cars look great at Richard Petty.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like just derailing for a second here too. The Richard Petty Motorsports paint schemes this year. I don't know if you agree with me. They're busy.
yeah, there's a lot going
Okay,
on.
someone agrees with me. Cool. I
The
was like,
Medina paint car kind of goes up and down for me that they ran last week. I'm sure you'll talk about it a little bit when you get closer to the Bristol Dirt Race. But that
oh
Tide car,
yes.
the Tide car is interesting because it has the Tide orange and yellow, but then it also has the Petty blue with it, and it's like,
No, I promise you, I talked about it a few podcasts ago. I'm talking about it during that race. There's a lot of paint schemes to discuss when we get
yeah.
to that. But yeah, that's one up for discussion. It's not pretty. Really bad segue. Something else that's not pretty, like horrible segue. Matt Benedetto. What's happening? What's happening over there?
I ask you the same question. I mean, 30th in the standings. I mean, he powered through going 80 or 90 laps on one tire at Las Vegas to finish 16th, which is I'm pretty sure his best finish of the season at this point. He has officially passed all the guys who are not running full time in cup points. He's 21st in the standings, or 30th. Sorry, he's 30th in the standings. He drives the 21. My bad. This is such a red flag.
Oh yeah.
He's got to win a race to make the playoffs. We haven't seen him win a race. Not only does he have to win a race to make the playoffs, he has to win a race to save his career, probably.
Yeah, that is the thing. He is, as we know, after this season, he is out of a ride. He's not going to be with Wood Brothers Racing anymore. Austin Cindric is going to fill his seat. He has nowhere to go. We can talk prospects at a different time, but right now he has nowhere to go. I don't think anyone's looking at him right now because, as we're seeing by the points, not good. I did want to mention last weekend in Las Vegas, I believe he got points in stage 1 or 2. I don't think it was both.
I think it was two. He got a few stage points in stage 2, I think.
Which is what that team needed, and they ran towards the front with all the Penske cars eventually, and then obviously as the race went on, got that tire. And
he was on pace for a top 10 finish, I would say.
He was. Yeah.
And we saw what a top 10 finish did for someone like Ryan Blaney, jumping them way up the standings. So.
Oh yeah, he's one I'm also pretty concerned about. We can move on to talk about him. I think Matt Benedetto closing that off. He needs a win. Otherwise, he's not going to make it. And I don't know if he's capable of that this season based on what we've seen so far.
He's kind of on the Daniel Hemrick career path, which is very alarming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to say that what Daniel Hemrick's doing at Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity Series is a bad thing, but all these guys want to drive in the Cup Series and win Cup Series races and championships, and going from the Cup Series down to the Xfinity Series is like adding another step up the ladder again.
It's trying to prove yourself. I know Ty Dillon did that after this year. The Geico 13 car was like, you know what? Don't have anywhere to go. Let's step down. Basically, his whole point is prove that I belong, see what I can do.
And he's had a lot of bad luck.
He's had
a lot of bad luck.
As much as the sport is talent and equipment, it is also luck. And Matt Benedetto just has not. And I want so much more for him. I also want so much more for Ryan Blaney, who bad luck last season. I feel like the unluckiest drivers last season, obviously Jimmy Johnson, who last season COVID and then no wins, like nothing over there. And then you had Ryan Blaney with just immensely horrible luck. And then going into this season, with the exception of this race, also really bad.
I think he's on the up and up, actually. I am someone who wants Ryan Blaney to do well.
Oh, I do too. I do too.
My dog and his dog are friends, so...
No way.
Yeah, we'll have to explain that off here, but
yes.
he is someone who I am trending up on. I don't know how great he is overall. I definitely think he's in position to go like round of 12 again, maybe round of 8. But I don't know how much how great his championship chances are. You know.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a championship four contender. I don't even know if he's going to be in the round of eight. I think he can make his way in, and I also think. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, I believe he is a one race a year winner. Like he wins one race a year. I think he has potential. We go to Talladega. He's didn't he won at Talladega before, right?
He's won there
Yeah.
twice. I think my challenge for Ryan Blaney this season is to win at a track that is not like Talladega. I mean,
A
he won
normal
at the
track.
Roval. He won at the Roval, but that was kind of a circumstantial sort of thing, you know, with the Johnson and Truex wreck. And then he won, of course, for the Wood Brothers at Pocono.
Right, that's true.
You know, that race stands out, but he's come close several times. I just need Ryan Blaney to finish off these races. There are several
Yeah.
points at the beginning of 2020 that stand out as races he could have won that either something happened to him or it was a bad pit call last season that cost him races early on. And then COVID hits, and after COVID hits, he's just off the face of the earth. And then
Right.
they had the horrible round of 16 and get kicked in the round of 16 with guys like Cole Custer and William Byron. A guy who's a relative veteran to this series at this point and drives for Penske should not be getting ousted with the rookie in the playoffs. You know,
Exactly. I think too, if you compare him to his teammates, I'm like, what are they doing? What are their teams doing? What are they getting that Ryan Blaney is not? And this, I mean, this race was nice to see all of them together again, but
he has the best. To me, he has the best crew chief
he
at
does.
Penske and Todd Gordon. And Brad, we all thought Brad got the short end of the deal, but if you ask me, Brad is probably the one who should have like was the guy who was closest to competing with Chase Elliott at Phoenix last year.
Hmm.
He was the best Penske car throughout the entire season, pretty much. I mean, I didn't have any times where I thought Joey Logano was really better.
No,
And
he's always been a pretty much of a dark horse, I think, in the championship four lineup.
yeah, yeah,
In a
it's
way,
time we start
sort of.
putting the light on Brad.
Yeah, I think, I mean, honestly, too, last year, I thought Brad probably would have won it. I know Chase had momentum going in. I think he's going to be a championship four contender this year. Um, Same, Joey
Well,
Logano might be.
there's something that your fans need to know, and it's that I am a drunken Denny Hamlin fan all the time. I drink all the
Oh,
Kool-Aid.
man.
So, you know, if I'll always pick him to win. He never ever does. I
Yep.
always end up heartbroken. Yeah, Denny Hamlin, the princess at the ball. You know, I'm sitting there on the sideline with him, always watching the queen get her crown. Us just the peasants outside the castle. You know, Denny Hamlin, like he's got to win a championship this year. If you pay attention to those advanced analytic stats, like that David Smith I think puts out, age 39 is a driver's peak season. Denny Hamlin turns 40 this year, or he's turned 40. Um, it's concerning as a Denny Hamlin fan. If he doesn't do it this year, I don't think it happens. And it kind of parlays into my question for you is like, where are you feeling like? Do you have a clear picture of a championship four you can put together, or like?
Oh, see, that's a good one. I sort of do. And some of so at the beginning of the season, the Dale Jr., Rutledge Wood, and they all kind of talked about their championship four picture, and I was like, "You're nuts." They put Kyle Larson in there. I was like, "That there's no way." And then I see him win this race, and I've seen him be probably the most consistent driver, minus I think the Daytona Road Course where he finished 30th because he wrecked out. But he's been to me the most consistent this season, which is a threat. You see him now in top tier equipment. You see him with his talent. Everyone should fear him. I think the dark horse, sort of, to be in the championship four for me, Kyle Larson. I think Brad Keselowski will probably be in there. I want to say Denny Hamlin for you. I do. I I will say last year, after seeing him win a lot last year, same with Kevin Harvick. I became a fan of them. I'm also a big fan of actually moving up through the years. Brad Keselowski, I've become a Brad Keselowski fan. Same with Kurt Busch. I don't think Kurt Busch is going to be in the championship four, but I think Brad, Kyle, for sure. Maybe not for sure on Kyle Larson, but Brad for sure. Harvick, I gotta say no on Harvick this year. Um, all I know is Brad for sure. I'm just gonna throw out two more names besides Larson and Brad. I'm saying their names over and over. Joey Logano probably. He always seems to make his way in there, and probably I think either Martin Truex or Denny Hamlin. Not positive. I think Martin is always on the cusp of getting in, and then always kind of backtracks it. I don't know
Yeah.
what your thoughts are on this, and I'm curious to know your championship four kind of standings here as we're in
So,
four.
for those of you that listen or have seen my podcast, Dipsticks Debates, and you've seen our Jeff Gluck episode, it was
Oh,
discovered that I'm a fan of Alex Bowman and his chances this year. We didn't talk about him much in our standings preview, but it's our standings talk or playoff talk. But it's worth mentioning he's 18th, by far the worst of all the Hendrick drivers this season so far. So I have a lot of concern currently for Alex Bowman's chances to win the championship, and it's mainly because I don't want to have egg on my face. But
yeah.
I'm looking here at the standings, and you talked about Kyle Larson being consistent. Denny Hamlin stands out as consistent.
Hmm.
3 top 5s in the first 4 races. That's about as good as you can get without getting, 4.
Very true.
So
Very
I would
true.
say Denny Hamlin. I think this is Denny Hamlin's last real shot at a championship. And this is the fanboy in me arguably coming out. But I
It's
think he can.
okay.
Brad is definitely a guy who I think gets there. Penske's dominance on the 750 horsepower tracks last season. Phoenix was standing the second time. I think is someone who stands out as a legitimate contender. I'm not going to count out Chase Elliott.
Now, I was hesitant on putting him in there. I think he has what it takes. I get so with the Hendrick guys in general, not seeing them be as dominant as they are until this season, I get super hesitant. But I'm agreeing with you, not counting him out, could put him in there.
I actually think that the way that Chase Elliott has started this season is almost more impressive. I was really quite impressed with how he drove the Las Vegas race between the jack issue and then the
Oh,
spinning late in the race, rallying for a top 13 finish, of course. NASCAR probably gave him the short end of the stick, to say the least, at the Daytona Road Course. He should have won that race.
oh yeah,
Um,
that's a whole other
and
debate
and
there.
and and based on how you see the timing and scoring of it all, you could argue that he should have won the 500. Like Chase looked like one of the best cars at Las Vegas. There's an argument you could make for Chase should have won 3 races this season already, and I'm not someone who's opposed to it, even though I don't necessarily love the guy. But
He a little backstory on me. He's the first driver I followed when I got into the sport, and I got into the sport very late. I started watching 2016. I watched a little bit before then, like now and then, but I really got invested around 2016. So pretty new. He was the first driver I saw. I'm so in with the stats. Totally forgot Chase Elliott had those good runs. Honestly, out of my mind. So now that I'm thinking of it, I'm like, I mean, I know he could have won at Las Vegas if it wasn't for the jack issue, wasn't for the spin out. His car, he led laps. And then Daytona, like as you said, depending on how you looked at it, when the caution lights came on, McDowell was clearly ahead. But if it was a different situation, pulled the flag sooner, he would have been the winner. Yeah, can't count him out.
of course, the road course, the
Oh yeah,
caution, and then he gets, he spins out racing too hard for the win. Maybe not too hard, but they're racing hard for the win, and this is one of the situations where guys get backed up in a turn at the road course, and somebody always gets the short end of the deal. It happened to Kyle Larson too, and
oh yeah.
I think, to get my last guy before we went a little off the path there with Chase, but it's definitely a Hendrick Chevrolet. My prediction in my heart wants it to be Alex Bowman. I've really kind of always liked Alex Bowman.
He's
Um,
great.
but with what Kyle Larson showed me this season, it's really hard to sit here 4 races into the season and not say that Kyle Larson doesn't get in. And you might be like, Zach, you're an idiot. You're just reading the top 4 in the standings. But can you legitimately tell me that there's been 4 drivers better than Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott this season, based off of what you've seen on the track?
And I cannot. The next driver in the list of points is Christopher Bell, and I'm like, that's insane to me. Honestly, the first 4 drivers have been the most consistent. Even if they haven't, they've been the most consistent, shown the most strength. Larson and Elliott, honestly, for me, looking at the field, and I know I have a little bias because I love Hendrick Motorsports, but strongest in the field, consistent. I think now that you bring up Chase Elliott, probably championship 4.
I don't think he gets it this year, just the randomness of the fact that it's a 1 race playoff.
Yes.
And the thing that stands out though is, and I'm sure you'll talk about this on your show on Friday or whenever it comes out with your predictions. Sorry, I don't want to schedule your shows, but
It'll be Friday. Don't worry. It'll be Friday.
Chase is really good at Phoenix. He traditionally runs well there. He has had tons of bad luck and stuff. I remember bad luck last spring. I remember the incident with Denny Hamlin there several years ago after Denny Hamlin spun him at Martinsville.
And with Phoenix, the championship race started at the rear of the field because, a violation. raced his way back up, and literally none of the other Championship 4 contenders were even in contention. It was
It
dominant
was a
Chase
bit
Elliott all the
alarming to
way.
see that he had the field covered that much. I, you know, I don't put as much stock in him coming through the field that race, and the reason why is I think there's a certain common courtesy for the Championship 4. I think that's why we always see them in the front 4 every race,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Cup Series. But the second you see him blow past Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski, the rest of us who are not Chase Elliott fans are like, oh, great, like we're freaking out.
Oh yeah, especially you as a Denny Hamlin fan over there. A
It's
little sad over there.
it's the usual pain, you know. You get used to it. You just sleep in your blanket of tears after every championship race that he loses.
I mean, it has to be his time sometime. I am hoping for your sake, Alex Bowman makes it into the Championship 4. I'm hoping Denny Hamlin, even though I didn't start off as a fan of Denny Hamlin, he grew on me. I'm hoping that at least he can get a championship at some point. Maybe this is the year. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below your Championship 4 picks. Let me know also your round of 16, your playoff points, what you think is going to happen. So this has been Above the Yellow Line podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Zach, any closing remarks? Want to mention where you can be found?
Yeah, you can find me personally on Twitter at ZRBell98 if you want to come at me. That is a line at Mike. Come at me, bro. So you're more than welcome to come at me, and we can have some great Twitter beef. If you're looking for my actual podcast and you prefer to hear my co-host talk about NASCAR rather than me, you can check out the Dipstick Debates. It's under the Racing Refresh Twitter account. Of course, they have other shows on Wednesday and Friday nights. Other than that, thank you for letting me be your first guest. It's a pleasure and an honor
Of course.
to be the first guest on anybody's show. And
Oh,
much better than my show. My first guest was my own dad. So
oh gosh. Well, that's so cool. I'm very honored that you wanted to hop on the show. Give it a try. Give my first on-camera podcast a try. I appreciate it so much. Definitely check out Zach's channel. Check out all of his social media. Check out Racing Refresh, Dipstick Debates. Check it all out. Next podcast, we're going to talk about the next race, the Instacart 500. So make sure you check that out. It's coming out Thursday or Friday, so stick around. Thank you again so much for watching Above the Yellow Line. My name is Taylor, and until next time, I'll see you.